All right, this video is going to take us through the effects, policies that were created as a result of the Great Depression, not by the Great Depression, but as a result of it. And we're also going to talk a little bit like what happened in European governments. I'll talk about the New Deal and European governments. All right, quick recap of the Depression. It sucks. All right, let's move on. Fair. Okay. Sounds good. Now, so, you remember, as we've already talked about, the unemployment rate was nationwide was 25%. In Toledo, as I was just kind of looking some stuff up on history.com, when I looked at like the New Deal, Toledo got a special mention on history.com. Said the unemployment rate was 80%. I was like, that's a stupid number. 80%. 4 out of 5 people couldn't get a job. So unemployment rates are skyrocketing. People are starving. We've done the Great Depression simulation where people are forced to give up their homes, to move, to go hungry, to beg, to seek new forms of employment. There's all sorts of bad things happening by 1933. People are moving all over the country trying to find, hoping that it's better somewhere else. All right, and so FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to the rescue. New Deal with it. And so he's going to win in 1933. 1932 is the election. He's going to win in a landslide over Hoover. All right, you recall we talked about him during the simulation a little bit in the last video as well. Many people are going to blame him for his inaction, which many historians believe made the Depression worse. In FDR's first 100 days, he's going to set forth a plan to help out the American people. He gave a famous speech saying the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. All right, he's going to do these fireside chats, is what they're called, where he's going to, with the invention of the radio, he is going to be giving a radio address. He's going to be in the homes of every American every night, promoting his message of hope. All right, and he promised the American people a New Deal. And so that's going to be his policy. This New Deal is what it was called. It was a series of programs and projects to help America recover. All right, so some of the things he's going to do, he's going to have a bank holiday within his first 100 days. He's going to shut down all banks in America. He's going to figure out which ones work, which ones are solvent, which ones don't work, which ones are insolvent. And he's going to back up the ones that work with federal funds, and they're going to close down the ones that are not capable of functioning. All right, so he's going to help to regulate banks to encourage people to use them again, because banks are important in society. You got to have something. If people want to be able to buy a house, you're not going to have cash to buy a house. You need to have loans. You need to have people take out loans. Well, the way banks work is they get their money from the people, and then they loan that money out to others. And so if people aren't putting their money in banks, it's really, really difficult to take out loans. He's going to also regulate the stock market to prevent another huge drop, cataclysmic drop. All right, so some of the things he's going to do. So not only is he going to regulate the banks, he's going to encourage people to start depositing in banks again, because he's going to back them up. We talked about that a little bit with the FDIC. I'll talk about it later as well. But these New Deal policies, some of the stuff he's going to do, he's going to provide the Works Progress Administration. This is an agency that they form. It provides jobs for unemployed people. These people are going to be paid directly by the federal government to build things. Just basically, it's a way to get people that are unemployed back working again. The other thing they're going to do is PWA. They sound super similar to make it all the more confusing. The Public Works Administration. This is basically where the government gave contracts to private businesses, so businesses that were already functioning, to build roads, dams, infrastructure, just to keep them up and running, to keep their workers employed, to keep people working and having a job. And so these were 2 work programs. There was more. I'm not going to dive into it all. You'll talk about it next year with Mr. Dickey. But these are some of the programs, the work programs that they did. So the New Deal is going to do a bunch of things. One of the things, it's going to go through, regulate banks, regulate the stock market. It's going to get people back working again. All right, so there's a lot of facets that this does. All right. The New Deal in Toledo, one of the things that we're going to look at. These are just some of the things that were done in Toledo, like the gas bowl. Whoops. The glass bowl at the University of Toledo was built as a result of the WPA, the Toledo Library. If you've ever been there, that was the PWA. You'll see different signs there as well. The Toledo Zoo, several buildings, the aquarium, etc. This was all built by these administrations. All right, and so like I said, and there's the Toledo Zoological Society expresses the appreciation from the WPA. All right, so you'll see these around the Toledo Zoo if you ever go there, on how it's built. All right, and so the New Deal has impacted Toledo, and we had one of the most in the state of these programs, probably because we had such a high unemployment rate. But that does, obviously, that still impacts. There's a lot of schools that were built from this, as well, things that we can see as a result from today. New Deal policies still implemented today. Things like Social Security are going to be established. That's going to provide the elderly with a safety net for retirement. All right, when you guys get a job, you're going to pay into Social Security. You're going to be like, man, this is stupid. My money's going to something called Social Security. I don't like that. I don't want to keep that money. And then when you retire, they're going to cut you a check every month, and you're going to be like, oh, this ain't that bad. It's pretty cool. It's not enough to live on, but it's something. It's just something additional to help out. Unemployment insurance, all right, that gets created back then as well. All right, for those, you can get a paycheck while looking for a job. All right, and that's really crucial during times like the coronavirus when businesses shut down. People were able to still get a paycheck to help them pay their mortgages. Right, so they're not becoming homeless and living in Hoovervilles like we saw again. So a lot of this is just a way to prevent history from repeating itself. So if you're out of a job, you're not just like, well, sucks to be you. Hopefully you can make your payments. Now you can still get a paycheck to help out. Minimum wage was provided. It was only 25 cents an hour, but hey, it's a start. All right, so it's making it rain. We're living life. 25 cents, what? It was not very much money, but it was at least a base to where people could, and it's been built off of that since then. That was even not very much back then. Deposit insurance, we talked about this in the last notes. It is up to, most of the times now, it's up to $250,000. I think I said it was $100,000 in the last one. But banks will guarantee your money, and this is a way to help make sure that people don't lose faith in the banking system. Financial watchdogs, the SEC, not the football conference, the Securities Exchange Commission, they prevent the stock market from basically companies lying about their numbers. They try to investigate insider trading. You're not allowed to do that, where you can't tip anything off. Sell stock before you know it's going to crash or anything like that. You can't do that. By getting tips from the inside. So the SEC exists to try to make sure that we prevent any false crashes from occurring. Now downward trends will occur, but they're there to prevent it because of any kind of fraud, which was not regulated before. So companies could lie about their value, and there's nothing you could do about it. Some other mortgages, Fannie Mae, FHA, these were all created when you buy a house. That's the type of mortgage you'll have. So it sounds great. There's a lot of things that we still can see to this day that have benefited us from this New Deal. But it was great, right? And it really wasn't. Well, it kind of was, but it wasn't as great as others had hoped. America really is not going to pull out of the Depression until World War II. All right? Because World War II starts, that's going to help us pull out of the Depression. We'll be unified as a country to start to make weapons, make equipment. But it had its setbacks, but the New Deal did help lessen the blow created by the Depression. And this really helped to guide our government's behavior. And I've seen this in my lifetime just lately, where it's like you always want to learn from the past. History is important because you want to be able to learn from the past. Well, in the economic crisis, like the coronavirus or like the housing market crash, typically when the government sits by and does nothing, things get worse. All right, and I'm not being entirely fair to Hoover. He is going to try to do stuff a little bit later on, but initially his inaction really cost the United States. FDR acted, and things got a little bit better. Shocking. All right, so the governments typically now they get more involved in the economy. I told you when I first bought my house, the housing market crashed, and what the government did, they didn't just say, well, let's hope it gets better. No, Obama took action. He said, hey, I'm going to give you $8,000 to buy a house, all right, because we got to get people encouraged to start spending money again. Because if we do nothing will happen. And same thing with the coronavirus. They're sending people money trying to keep the economy humming. And this is really what I want to get to, the outcome of the depression. It was a global depression. Millions of people around the world were suffering. Britain and France had similar unemployment rates as the United States, but Germany suffered the worst. They had many of the U.S. loans were being recalled, and that's going to cause the German economy to collapse. Unemployment is going to get above 30%. Poverty rates are going to be at an all-time high. People are desperate, and they're looking for a leader to take action. Hitler is going to start to take action. All right. And so people had lost hope in democracy and capitalism, and many countries are going to turn to these extreme leaders because they promised to end the economic hardship. They promised to restore greatness, and in return, all they'll ask for is complete control. And so we're going to have, as a result of the Great Depression, these maniacal dictators are going to start to take over European countries. And that is really the key. So outside of the New Deal, what we want to focus on in Europe is that these maniacal dictators are going to start to rise up in Europe as a result of the economic hardships and people's just lack of faith in democracy. We were founded as a democratic nation. These other countries were not. They adopted it after they were absolute monarchs. And so it was a new idea to them. Capitalism, too. It doesn't look that great during the Great Depression. All right. So turning over to an absolute authority that promised to end their suffering didn't seem all that bad. So that's what's going to happen in Europe, and it's going to put us right on the path to World War II.